Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul. Marilyn Monroe said that years before anyone understood what she meant. By the time they did, she was gone. Marilyn Monroe was the most famous woman of the 20th century. Her face became the most reproduced image in modern history. She was found dead in her Brentwood home on August 5, 1962. She was 36 years old. Her body was placed in a bronze casket inside a wall crypt at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles. For over 60 years, that tomb stayed sealed. Then they opened it. What they found inside connects directly to a classified FBI file that was not declassified until 2012. Marilyn had left something behind, and the federal government spent half a century making sure no one would ever read it. For 60 years, nobody opened that crypt. Westwood Village is a small cemetery tucked behind office buildings in Brentwood. Most people walk past it every day without knowing the most famous woman who ever lived rests there. No tours, no public access to her section, no exceptions. Then a decision was made. The tomb was going to be opened. Why now? Why after 6 decades? The emotional reason came first. Marilyn had no children. Her half-sister Bernice Baker Miracle was the only family at the funeral. Bernice's descendants wanted to know what had been sealed inside. They had spent decades watching the world argue about Marilyn's death without ever hearing from Marilyn herself. Then came the official reason. Westwood's older wall crypts had been flagged for a preservation review after moisture was detected in the corridor section. But here is something most people do not know. That review was completed nearly 2 years before any work began. Nobody has explained the gap. What were they not ready to face? A small team was assembled. No press, no studio representatives, no government officials. Marilyn had not been passive in her final weeks. And Joe DiMaggio, the man who arranged her funeral, had placed something inside that crypt that was never documented on any record. To understand what was found, you first need to understand why the FBI was watching Marilyn Monroe in the first place. Because this was not a celebrity gossip file. This was federal surveillance. When Marilyn died, newspapers sold out within hours. Switchboards crashed. In London, theaters dimmed their lights. She was 36 years old. The world did not just mourn a movie star. It mourned the woman who had made vulnerability look like power. Joe DiMaggio took control of the funeral. He chose Westwood because it was small, private, and invisible. He rejected Hollywood forever. He rejected Forest Lawn. He limited the guest list to 30 people and locked the entire entertainment industry out. He reportedly said, if it wasn't for those people, she'd still be alive. He did not just lock out Hollywood, he locked out Washington. No Kennedy was welcome, no government representative attended, and he sealed the crypt with reinforced concrete beyond what the cemetery required. That matters more than it sounds, because the FBI had been monitoring Marilyn for years. They tracked her connections to leftist figures, the Kennedys, and people Hoover considered threats. DiMaggio's crypt was the one place in America the FBI could not reach without a warrant they would never request. The cemetery was closed at 3:30 a.m. The Brentwood streets were silent. Staff had been cleared from the corridor of memories. A single security officer stood at the crypt wing entrance. The team was 4 people. 1 structural engineer, 1 preservation specialist, 1 funeral director, 1 family representative. Their equipment included moisture sensors and reinforced tools designed for marble and concrete wall crypts. No surviving family member has confirmed attendance. Imagine being the last living connection to Marilyn Monroe, waiting to hear what had been sealed inside a wall for over 60 years. The work took 6 hours. When the marble facing was removed and the inner chamber became visible, the team stopped. Nobody spoke. It was the first time since August 8, 1962, the day of Marilyn's funeral, that any human being had seen her coffin. 60 years of silence. And now, this? Here is something important to understand about that coffin. DiMaggio ordered a solid bronze casket, the type reserved for heads of state. He also ordered the crypt sealed beyond standard cemetery specifications. He paid for all of it personally. DiMaggio was not just burying the woman he loved, he was building a vault, and he wanted what he placed inside to survive for decades. Then the items were found, objects inside the crypt chamber that appeared on no funeral record. The family representative asked everyone to leave the corridor. something had been found, something significant. The documented items were accounted for first. Marilyn was dressed in her favorite green Pucci dress, a small bouquet of faded roses placed by DiMaggio, a prayer card from the service, and a childhood photograph. Not a glamour shot, not a movie still, a photograph of Norma Jean as a girl, taken during her time in foster care, before the world renamed her. Think about that for a moment. Someone placed a picture of the child Marilyn had been before Hollywood found her, before the studios, before the marriages, before the Kennedys, before any of it. That photograph was placed beside her so that in death, she would not be Marilyn Monroe. She would be Norma Jean again. The girl nobody wanted. The girl who bounced between 12 foster homes before she turned 16. The girl who became the most desired woman on earth and still felt like no one truly knew her. That photograph was not a memory. It was a correction. A reminder that the woman inside that coffin had a name before the world gave her a new one. Most people would see that and call it nostalgia. But think about the life that photograph represents. A girl who was placed in an orphanage by a mother who could not care for her, who was told she was unwanted before she could understand what that word meant, who built an empire out of beauty and still told friends she did not feel beautiful. For that girl, being buried with her childhood face was not sentimental. It was the only honest thing left in a life the world had made into fiction. Then came the things that were never supposed to be found. Inside a sealed metal container, tucked beside the coffin in the outer chamber, sat personal documents. Pages in Marilyn's handwriting, notes, and sealed envelopes, each addressed to a specific person, each marked, "To be read only after I am gone." Some names have never been disclosed. And then the detail that connected everything. Sources say the documents include references to conversations Marilyn had with individuals connected to federal intelligence operations. Not romantic conversations, operational ones. Topics that reportedly included Cuba, surveillance programs, and names that appear in the declassified FBI file released in 2012. If Marilyn was documenting what government officials told her in private, she was not just a famous woman who knew powerful men. She was a witness, and witnesses who know too much do not always get to grow old. Imagine being the family representative in that moment, standing in a corridor in Westwood, 60 years after Marilyn was sealed away, finding that she had been documenting the very people who were documenting her. Inside the notes, those who have seen them say Marilyn described a growing awareness in her final weeks that she was being watched, not by fans, not by photographers, by the government. Specific, repeated, documented awareness. Her friend Jean Carmen confirmed it. Marilyn told her directly that she knew her phones were tapped and her movements tracked. She did not say this in panic. She said it calmly, during a private conversation at her Brentwood home. That calmness is what makes it so disturbing. But Carmen was not the only one. Her publicist, Pat Newcomb, who was at the house the day before Marilyn died, has said almost nothing publicly about that final weekend in 60 years. Her silence has been louder than any statement. Those close to the situation say Newcomb was advised by government contacts not to speak. She never has. Two people, two separate positions. One knew what Marilyn feared. The other was told to stay silent about it. The FBI file on Marilyn Monroe, declassified in 2012, confirmed federal surveillance. The file documented her movements, her associations, and her connections to the Kennedys. Portions of the file remain redacted to this day. Nobody has explained why a dead actress requires ongoing classification 60 years later. Marilyn knew she was being watched, so she wrote her own record, and DiMaggio sealed it inside a crypt, where no federal agency could reach it without exposing the fact that they wanted it. They were not confused, they were consistent, and they were terrified. On the night of August 4th, 1962, Marilyn was at her Brentwood home. Her housekeeper Eunice Murray was in the house. Her psychiatrist Dr. Ralph Greenson had visited that evening. Murray called Greenson at approximately 3:30 a.m. He broke through a window. Marilyn was dead. Police were not called until 4:25 a.m. Nearly an hour between the discovery and the call. Nobody has fully explained what happened in that gap. The autopsy found lethal barbiturate levels in her blood, but no pill residue in her stomach. A massive overdose with no trace of ingestion. Her organs were destroyed before a secondary toxicology analysis could be completed. That is not bad luck, that is a pattern. Marilyn's phone records from her final weeks were seized and never recovered. Her house was cleaned before police arrived. Bobby Kennedy was in Los Angeles that weekend. Here is something most people do not know. Dorothy Kilgallen, one of America's most prominent journalists, was investigating both Marilyn's death and the Kennedy assassination. She claimed to have information linking the cases. In November 1965, she was found dead, ruled an overdose. Her notes were never recovered. The journalist investigating Marilyn's connections died the same way. Her evidence vanished just like Marilyn's phone records. Marilyn had told Jan Carmen she was being watched by the government. Her publicist was told to stay silent. Her FBI file confirmed surveillance. Her phone records were seized. Her house was cleaned. A journalist investigating the same connections died under identical circumstances. And portions of Marilyn's federal file remain classified 6 decades later. An investigative author who spent years on the case wrote something that has never been forgotten. Marilyn Monroe did not die because she was fragile. She died because she was paying attention. And the people watching her could not afford to let her keep writing down what she saw. When the contents became known, the response was immediate, not public statements, quiet legal inquiries through intermediaries. Nobody wanted to be seen asking about a dead woman's crypt. The FBI's posture was complicated. Portions of their file on Marilyn remain classified. If the documents inside the crypt confirm what those redacted sections contain, the implications extend far beyond Hollywood. The reaction from political circles was simpler. It was fear. The family refused to cooperate. The materials were found inside a crypt, sealed by Joe DiMaggio, maintained by private arrangement for decades. No federal agency has legal claim to what was buried with her. For the first time, something Marilyn wrote exists completely outside government reach. They cannot access it. They cannot classify it. The question is, what happens next? Some want the documents sealed permanently. Others believe Marilyn's instructions were clear. She addressed those envelopes to specific people. She did not leave them as keepsakes. In 1962, Joe DiMaggio stood at Westwood with barely 30 people and locked the world out. He locked out the studios. He locked out the Kennedys. He locked out the government. He sent roses for 20 years and never said why. 60 years later, the tomb he sealed was opened, and inside was proof that Marilyn had been documenting the people who were documenting her. DiMaggio knew. He protected it the only way he could. This is not the story of an actress who died alone in Brentwood. This is the story of a woman who realized the most powerful government on earth was watching her, wrote down everything she saw, and sealed it where they could never reach it. 60 years later, Marilyn still has the last word.